Thanks for being on here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm ready.
All right. So usually I have like some facts, intros and stuff like that, but and I know I think I have some idea of the size of your agency and stuff like that, but let's start off with the basics. Where's your agency at? How many years you been an agent, and where is your agency at today as far as your stats as far as premium and policies and all that?
Okay. Yeah. Been an agent since '99, so I guess that would put me at 21 years. So 21 years young in the business. So the office is located in Southlake, Texas, which is just right outside the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I've got 9 staff people. On a good day, we're teetering about 9,800, 9,900 policies in force. And you and I have talked. I mean, it's more of a measure of premium at this standpoint. So our entire book is sitting right at about 18 million.
Oh man.
So yeah, that's our farmers book, and then our we're also big in the commercial space. So the two of those combined, the two combined are about 18
okay.
million.
Wow.
I think with farmers, we're probably about 12 million.
Yeah, no, so this podcast is called Elite Agent Talk, and that's definitely qualifies. You're definitely a superstar in the company. And that, it's going to be a lot to learn from you. But what did you do before farmers, or what's your backstory? Where'd you grow up and all that?
Yeah, so I grew up in the same town that my office is in.
Oh, yeah.
Prior to farmers, I was just a hardworking college student. And then you kind of hit that pivotal moment when you step out of college and you realize, okay, now I got to get a real job. So my first job out of college, ironically, my first real job out of college was, becoming a farmer's agent.
Like an agency owner?
So prior to that, I had worked in an agency in college. So that's kind of what put me in the mindset to try to maybe look at this as more of a career versus, just a part-time job.
Oh, wow. So your first full-time job was as a farmer's agent, agency owner?
That's it.
And
it was a blessing and a curse. So I always tell agents that it was a blessing and a curse because I didn't have any debt or overhead. I mean, I was just right out of college. I mean, the only debt and overhead I had was myself. Mm-hmm. So, it was kind of a blessing in that regard, but the curse was I'd never done anything else. So I didn't really understand what it meant to be an agency owner, to be your own boss, and to actually work. That was the hardest part.
Yeah, it's not an easy job to start off right out of college with all the responsibilities and all the duties we have in the beginning, right from the beginning. So this is all you know.
That's it. That's all I know. So I guess if that's all I know, I better be good at it, right?
Yeah, and that definitely, that is one thing that's for sure, that you are good at it. But what is it that you think? Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of agents come and go, or different agencies end up in different stages of their book of business. There's nothing wrong with it. Everybody has their comfort level or what they want their agency to do for their lives. But anything that you see that has made a difference for you, or you notice that I'm a little different in this way, or what are some things that has made a difference maker or has helped you succeed to this level, you think?
Yeah, I think for me, it's, I've never really set a barrier on where I want to ultimately end up. So I think it's important, no matter what you do, never put a cap on where you want to be, right? So then you're always climbing the mountain. So there's never well, if I get to here, then I'm satisfied. So for me personally, I'm still climbing the mountain no matter what level of success I'm at. I think the other thing for me is I've never been afraid to try anything. So if somebody comes to me with an idea, I've just always said, okay, hey, look, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. I think a lot of people, whether they're agents or, they're entrepreneurs, they're hesitant for one reason or another to give something a try. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. So that's kind of been my mindset my whole career. And listen, I probably failed more times than I won, but the times I won, those are things that are still going on today. And then probably the last thing for me is I realized no matter where my location was, how great a staff I had, if I didn't have people trying to pursue me for insurance, if I wasn't actively marketing and had a great marketing strategy, all the rest of it was invalid. So I guess from day one, I've always just been thinking marketing, kind of similar to your strategy, right? You work on marketing your business, and then the other stuff takes care of itself.
Right. Yeah, and that's where we really clicked when I learned a lot from talking to you about your strategies and just overall thoughts on marketing. But you're so right. You know, you could have the best location in the whole world. You could have the best employee in the whole world. But if there's no, incoming leads coming in, it's just something that we all should start with.
Right. Yeah. I think success starts with marketing, especially in our business.
Right. Yeah, and then I also want to touch on what you talked about as far as not being a fail. When it comes to trying different things, what are some things that you tried, and what have you learned from them, and what is that is working that you mentioned that you're still sticking to?
Yeah. Well, I would just say, as a Caucasian male, it's probably not a good idea to advertise in the Hispanic yellow pages. That didn't really work good for me.
You really tried everything, huh?
Yeah, listen, everything. I mean, I've had my name on grocery carts. If somebody's come to me with an idea that halfway made sense, I'd try it. So, but I think that's what's ultimately led to success is, one of those things is going to hit. And listen, I've had a lot of great ideas and thought this is the next greatest thing, and it just fell flat.
What would
You
you
know,
say to
it,
the agents that are just, are a little afraid because there's always a investment, monetary investment. You have to spend that money. So it's like if it doesn't work out, well, it's a waste of money. What would you say with that
you
statement?
don't always have to start big either, right? Like, you know, I'm huge on direct mail. Everybody knows that. When I first tested direct mail, I did it all myself, like, from printing the paper to folding the envelopes. And I'll never forget, it was a lot of money. I mean, my first paycheck as a farmer's agent was $754 for the month. Now, the crazy thing is, right out of college, I felt like that was a lot of money. And then I realized very quickly that isn't going to go very far. So, I know what it's like to not have the resources to want to do all the things you want to do. But I would also say, you don't always have to start really big. I think new agents think, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it big. Well, really your investment is almost relative to the size of your agency. So if you're a big agency, if you want to make a move inside the agency, it probably is at a higher level. But if you're a smaller agency, you can make a minimal investment that could have a major impact.
Right.
And then, for me, it was just continue to invest. So, the very first time I did direct mail, it was a $300 investment. I think we made $200 off that initial investment, and we just put it right back in and just kept going. So I think a lot of times agents too, they'll look at something and say, well, I spent $1,000, but I only made 500. It's not a good investment. To which I would say that's a fantastic investment, because what we are in is a residual based business. If we can get half back up front, you're going to make the other half over the next 2 or 3 years, or maybe even longer.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely in it for a long run. I mean, who knows? You may be able to cross sell them. They may send you a referral, and you can definitely count on rate increases.
Yes, yeah, especially in my state.
You can always count on that. So, yeah. Would you say that's the magic number? Like you make half back on initial investment, or is there some type of formula you have, or what would you say?
Yeah, for me, when I look at things, I try to at least come half back, right? So
Okay.
for every 100 I spend, I'd love to make 50. The beautiful thing is now, if you want to try something as an agent, and you and I talked about this just yesterday, like if you're not trying to market right now, when you have the opportunity to earn up to, 100% bonus on your new business, you're never going to do it. So,
Okay.
now is the time to try everything, in my opinion, because if you're getting a 50% ROI, or now you're getting 100% ROI, assuming that you're hitting all your triggers.
Even more than that, because if you count the PGB
Right.
and the double down, it comes out to
Yeah,
like,
no, it's a beautiful thing.
yeah, more than double. So it's amazing. What else? Yeah, and I like that you touched on you don't have to start big, right? Because sometimes if people ask me like, oh, how much you're spending on marketing, and I tell them it's like they think they have to do that from the very beginning, but it's just been a gradual thing, which I could really relate to. Like you don't have to start off with spending. I don't know how much you spend on direct mail, but you can start slow and see how it goes, and everything you have back. Did you always was that easy for you to put it back in the business, or did you have like, situations throughout your career where you wanted to, you know, what are your philosophies as far as like putting it back into the business, or saving some money, or using it for your personal lifestyle? Like how do you think you did in that regards?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was easy, right? Because, man, again, I was right out of college. I had no family, had no debt. I mean, the car I drove right out of college was paid for, because it was a gift for graduation. So um, for me, everything went back into the business. And I know that's harder when you're coming in at a later season of life, but I would just always say, hey, never neglect the agency, because the agency investment is the one that multiplies, not the material investments you want to make outside of the agency. That's just something that's going to satisfy you, temporarily.
Right.
So, I mean, I always tell agents, invest as much as you can back in the business and live as lean as you can when you're starting the business.
When did you start kind of treating yourself, or do you do that now?
Oh, I mean, now for sure. I mean, but I mean, I think I've always been slow to treat myself. I mean, my wife would say that, like, hey, you wait 2 years, after that, you probably could have done it before. But I think for me, that's just, for me, it's business first, and then, my personal stuff second.
Right.
But I think as an agent, I mean, if you don't treat yourself in some capacity, you're going to just burn out, because,
Right.
everything's just, like a constant hamster in the wheel.
Yeah, that's that fine balance. Yeah, I could go
Yes.
sometimes a little too extreme. What are some things you do like financially, like, to give yourself a little, award or something like that, a little treat?
I love to boat. So, we spend a lot of our time on the lake. So, I invested in a boat. I think
Nice.
it's so for me, it's boating. But I also think, maybe for some other agents, if you spend most of your time in the car, I mean, buy yourself a nicer car, if that's where you're spending most of your time. I mean, everybody's got a different hobby, and that's the great thing, is just invest in what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And for me, it's boating, especially with a family. You spend a lot of time together, and that's you don't always get that when you're working all the time.
Yeah. So that's great that your hobby is something that has to do with spending time with the family. So that's great that you mix those two together. So yeah, let's go back to marketing. So what would you say, you know, if you looked at your whole size of your portfolio, what would you say, how much percentage of it you spend on marketing? What's like what would you say your budget is, like
Probably 25%.
25%? Has it always
Yes,
been
sir.
that way, or is it more aggressive
I
now or
mean,
less?
it's probably more now, especially given the fact that Double Down exists and PGB. It's probably more now than it's ever been, just because I don't want to not hit the bonus. Like, I mean, it's almost like that. Once you get it once, you don't want to miss it. So,
Right.
it's a race, no matter how big the number is every month. So yeah, I would say it's 25%, maybe 30, depending on what's out there. But the good thing is you know we've done a good job of putting money back into the agency, so that if an opportunity does come along that we want to try, and it's outside of what we would normally allocate, we can continue to just go forward with it versus having to wait or turn something off.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally makes sense to spend more right now. Like you said, if you're not doing it now, you never will. Because sometimes if you look at it, it's almost like the company is helping us pay for our marketing budget.
Right. Like, absolutely. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, that's the great thing, is I love the double down, because it almost feels like, I think most agents are control freaks, right? Like, we feel like we're in control of a lot of things, and the one thing that you can control as an agent is how much business comes through the front door. And that's just how well you can market. If you like to network, then spend more time networking. If you
Mhm.
if you do online leads or internet leads or direct mail, then allocate more resources there, because if you know what the target is, it's just a matter of building a marketing budget with successful tools that can allow you to hit that number.
Yeah. And to have a marketing plan that's scalable too, where you just all you have to do is spend more money towards it.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's
that's
great.
important, because certain things, you can't scale certain marketing campaigns, but when you have a system like yours, literally you could just decide if you want to spend more, then you'll get more leads.
Right. And I would say all marketing, I mean, no matter what the channel is, whether
Mhm.
it's social media marketing, internet leads, direct mail. It's all just a numbers game. I mean, literally, the more you spend, the more you make. So back to that early question when you said, what do you say to agents who, don't have a big budget to invest? Well, it's the same concept. The more you spend, the more you make. So, just keep reinvesting in that. Put the money back into the campaign if it's successful versus taking it out and sticking it into, your personal budget.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to audit ourselves sometimes on what we're spending on our personal lives, sometimes to make room for spending more on our marketing. So I think that I 100% agree with you there. That's where it all starts. So tell me a little bit more about the direct mail. Like, what is like, what, because I know a lot of agents have tried it, or what about, what's the difference maker of a successful campaign? Why is it not working for some agents? And what about the fact of people may say like, it may not be as effective as it used to be? What are some your thoughts in general when it comes to why it has worked for you so well?
Well, I think effectiveness is a great starter, right? Because what I've noticed is since COVID has hit, our response and our income as an agency is up 25%. Now, we haven't done anything any different, right? We're still sending out the same volume of mail, but, our income, and not just related to bonus, I'm just talking about pure premium written, our premium's up 25%. So I think right now with COVID and, a lot of places had shelter in place. Well, the mail was still running. So if people are at home, the highlight of most of their days for some was, going to the mailbox. And if you can throw something in the mail that addresses one of their biggest expenses on a monthly or annual basis, they're paying attention. So, we're also seeing that with our clients. I mean, I'm getting more people calling me than ever saying, hey, I've never really sat down and reviewed my insurance. Can we walk through it and see if there's ways to cut expense? So my thought is if my clients are calling, Allstate, State Farm, you name it, their clients are calling as well. What better time to throw something in the mail and perhaps have them call us?
Yeah, no, everybody's home, you know, with some thoughts that are, fearful. And I think sometimes when people are a little bit, they have time and they're scared, insurance is one of the things that people start thinking about, and scared about their finances too. So I definitely see that in our agency too. A little bit more disruption when it comes to more shoppers in general right now.
Right. And
So
the trigger point for a lot of people, let's say they wouldn't move if you were saving them, $25 a month. They might not have moved in the past, but if you're, fearful of being laid off, or, you're just trying to trim wherever you can here or there, we're seeing people move for a lot less money than they would have prior to COVID because, things were okay and there was no uncertainty as it relates to their finances.
right.
So, I think that's helping as well.
Yeah. So if everybody else is marketing, it's even more important for us to be marketing because people are shopping. So if you're not marketing right now, yeah, we're losing out on a huge opportunity.
And you throw double down in there and you realize, wow, maybe I need to market more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the same thing here. I've been more aggressive, and I think it's definitely paying off. Um, what about the fact that some agents have tried direct mail and it hasn't been as successful? Is it the content? Like, is it what's written on there, or is it something that is it just that you have to keep doing it, or what are some things that make a campaign work for direct mail, and what are things
Yeah.
that
So I would say it's kind of like your campaign, right? Like, for your social media platform. I mean, content is everything.
Mhm.
So, again, you'd be the most well-spoken person or, have the greatest ideas. If that content doesn't grab that person and the acquire time is very small, like, whether it's social media marketing or direct mail marketing, if you don't grab their attention as soon as they open it, it's just another piece of trash. So I would say content is everything.
Mhm.
And, if somebody were to ever get a hold of the very first piece of direct mail I did, they'd be like, this is terrible. Literally it was like looked like an Excel spreadsheet, and it had every age of the home for the last 10 years and just a matrix of different dwelling values. And you had to kind of mix and match, which house was yours.
Oh,
Uh, you
oh
know,
my God.
now we've dialed it in to where we know the features of their house, the year built, the square footage, the approximate dwelling cost. And, we can, through algorithms, determine, what that price would be given, some assumptions. I mean, there's no exact science to it, no matter if it's, an agency created piece or a company created piece. But I would say, to answer your question, it's content. Content is everything. Creativity is everything. Nowadays people want to do business in a multitude of ways, whether that's, picking up the phone and calling you, emailing you for a quote, texting for a quote. So, I mean, you've got to be able to check all those boxes when it comes to your marketing strategies. And then you ask a question about, trial, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of agents who have tried direct mail in particular, and maybe they do it for a month or two and go, man, this isn't working, right? It's not hitting whatever that number is that they've put out that it needs to return, and they cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like anything else. I mean, if you really want to try something, I would say you probably need to go, a 3 to 6 month trial before you just say, this is not effective.
Right.
Because it could just be, you need to tweak something, maybe you need to tweak your letter, work on your content, if it's social media. I mean, it's trial and error, even to this day. I mean, 21 years in, I mean, I'm still tweaking and amending things just to make sure that, we've got the most effective piece that's out there.
What do you do when you feel like it's working, but you feel like if I tweak it, it might work? Because there's a risk of that, what's working, not working, So that again is probably the risk of the confidence you have in yourself. If it fails, that you're not. I could just tell that you're not afraid to fail.
No, I listen. Somebody once told me, I move like a speedboat. So I'm definitely not afraid to fail. I'm more afraid of not trying. I'm afraid of waking up and saying, man, what if I would have done that? Is that the thing that would have taken the agency to the next level? That's what drives me is the fear of not trying something versus the fear of trying and failing. So, for me, if somebody said, hey, what do you think about this idea? My program's successful. I'm doing really great things with it. My first question is, do you want more, right? Are you content with where you're at, or do you want more? I think for a guy like you and I have talked, for a guy like myself, I mean, I want to push the envelope. I want to be the biggest. So for me, I think what I would probably tell myself or tell another agent is, look, you don't have to change everything all at once. So, if a guy's doing, let's just say he's doing, 10,000 mailers, right? Try that new idea on half of them. If a guy's spending $5,000 on social media marketing, try that new idea on half of your budget. See if that other half returns more than, the half that was already working. And if it does, then switch it and go all in. If it doesn't, then go back to what you were doing. But yeah, I think you've got to be willing to try.
Yeah, that's the only way to find out.
That's it. I mean,
that's awesome, Sammy. That's so valuable, I think, to other agents, and even to me, to be able to adjust. How often do you adjust your are you adjusting it like once a year or twice a year, or your mailers?
Say every quarter I'm thinking of something different. And a lot of times, I mean, I always advocate it's better to be the pirate than the pioneer a lot of times, right? So, the good thing about direct mail is a lot of other people do it, whether it's, other farmers agents or, other companies. So I have the opportunity to see a lot of great ideas come through the mailbox. So, I may see something come through the mailbox and go, hey, that's a great idea. But it would be even better if they did, X.
Right.
So for me, it's just a matter of, my brain's always thinking of what's that next move. And then if I see something, then I'll try to figure out a way to adapt it or adopt it, into my campaign.
Have you always been like a creative person, would you say?
I mean, if you ask my wife, she would probably say yes.
Okay. Yeah, she knows you more than anybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, she's the reason I'm successful. I mean, when I first started, I was right out of college. And I think I said that leading up, but I'd go to the office about 10, work till about noon, take a 2-hour lunch and go home. Literally about 6 months in, I'm like, this this guy that recruited me and said this was the income potential, he was lying. Like, and I'll never forget, she looked at me and she said, well, are you really working? And man, that was the difference maker for me, is I just needed somebody to kick me in the tail a little bit and to motivate me to really hit my full potential. So, I think that's another huge key for agents. Like, if you're a single person, find somebody in your district that's successful that can kick you in the tail sometimes and motivate you. If you're a married person, make sure your spouse is on board with what you're doing. And when you fall short, they can lift you up. Because, I'd like to say this business is all success, but that's not the case. Sometimes you fall short. You need somebody to either kick you in the tail when you're not doing a good enough job, or lift you up when you've failed.
Yeah, it sure is. I think sometimes this business, it's a gift and a curse where we have so much freedom, and no one's really like holding you accountable. So if you wanted to, you could only work 2 hours. It's your choice. There's no boss, and that's kind of the reason we wanted to be in this business. But we definitely sometimes need that person where you're like, hey, you could do more.
Yeah, Dan, you hold me accountable. I look at your numbers and I feel like I got to show up to work every day and, work 12-hour days.
Oh no, no. Well, I just enjoy it. I just it's not like, oh, I have to work because I have to. It's just part of what works is just kind of learning to enjoy the sucky parts. And if I enjoy the whole aspect of it, it doesn't even feel like work. So that's kind of been like a brainwashing myself type of process where I just feel like, hey, work is great, and it is really. We're so lucky to be in this business, especially with what's going on. And that gratitude is what keeps me just working. It just makes me happier when I'm productive and I'm doing
Right.
something. And if I'm
And it's
not doing,
important, I think, when you're in the office, like, a lot of people say, well, man, why do you go to the office as often as you do? You don't have to work, but I think it's important, especially when, you're selling, we're primarily auto and home, right? Auto, home, and commercial. I mean, you know, it's important to kind of be there front and center with your team and leading them as opposed to them leading you.
right.
So for me, I'm all about showing up and leading them as opposed to them leading me. And I'm sure I see enough of you and I've got to know you well enough. You're the same way. Like, you don't always have to be even selling anything, but the fact you're in there with them in the trench, when things aren't going good and you're high-fiving them, when they have victory, that's what motivates staff. And then again, if you want to climb the mountain and get to the top of the hill, you're not going to get there alone. So you better find some great staff and then, figure out a way to keep them.
Yeah, that's a great subject. Well, first, speaking of, work ethic, what is your schedule these days? How hard?
Yes. So since my kids were born, I've always taken off on Fridays.
Okay.
And that was just to spend time with them. But, I would say my schedule is a little crazy. So, it's 9 to 5, but then I find myself after hours when my kids go to sleep, working on the business, thinking of marketing ideas. So, I may
Yep.
not necessarily be working, in the business, but
But
I'm
you're
working
on.
on the business.
Yeah.
And I think that's where agency owners have to get their mind is, a lot of times we spend too much time working in the business. Maybe
Mhm.
we're doing the mundane task when in reality you need to be focused on working on the business. What's that thing that you're falling short of, or what's that idea that kicks it to the next level? So, that's where my schedule gets a little long sometimes is I'm going to the office and putting in the time there, but then after hours, I'm putting in time trying to, kickstart that new idea.
No, I love that because sometimes when you're in the office, you really can't get into critical thinking where you're, because, clients are calling you, employees are asking you questions. You really can't have a quiet time where you're thinking of like the big picture or the strategy, the next marketing campaign. Like maybe I should do this. It's just, there's just so much going on at the same time. You just can't see when you're all by yourself. That's really when sometimes I come up with the best ideas. So I do really relate to that when you say when everyone's sleeping, that's when I get some of the best work done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and sometimes it's just, I could be driving down the street and be like, wow, this idea just germs in my head. And I'm like, all right, I better pull over and write this down before I get too far, because you're right. At the office, a lot of times I like to refer to it as organized chaos. I mean, everybody's,
Yep.
on top of it and doing their job, but a lot of times it does feel a little chaotic because, you've got phones ringing, and things going on, employees popping in, so it's really hard to work on the business when you're inside of the business.
Right. Yeah, it's so hard to strategize. It's almost like you're playing defense. You're just trying to just make sure everything, putting out fires and things like that. What are some great ideas that popped in recently?
Well, I've got a couple that I'm working on.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know if I want to talk about them on your feed because I know what a following you have. But, it goes back to my direct mail. I think there's ways in which people want to be contacted today that frankly nobody is doing. Everybody's just sending out a letter saying, call me for a quote.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many other effective ways that I think that have shown up lately that people are adopting to that
Mm-hmm.
could potentially allow for more success. So
So when you give them the options, what are some of the things you see as far as trending, as far as how people want to communicate?
So I'll just tell you. So I don't. How far along are we in the video, Dan?
Oh, we're
You and I
about
always talk about how long people watch.
about 30 minutes, but I'm just
Stuck around till the 30-minute mark. I'm going to give it to you.
all right.
So,
Man, you are a marketer, that's for sure.
so here's the deal. So this is what I'm seeing in the marketplace.
Okay.
When you go to a restaurant these days, there's no paper menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to get your phone out, and what do? You scan the QR code.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on technology that I can put on the mailer that's a unique QR code for every prospect that I mail to. So they could take their phone out, hover their phone over the QR, and it takes them to a web page where there are quotes on there for them to complete and send me a form that emails me.
Wow.
So that's where I think the next opportunity lies, is in just contacting people in a manner that which they now have become accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you tried to pop out a QR code a year ago, it might not have been adopted very well because people didn't really know what it was or how to utilize it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're out in public and you're trying to go to a restaurant and there's no paper menu, everybody knows what a QR code is and how to utilize it. So I think it's just convenience of doing business. And I think that's something that could be well adopted in a direct mail type campaign.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks for sharing that with us. I think you're right because that's the direction the world's going. And in Japan, QR codes are being used way more than it is over here. So I could kind of see some of the trends that.
Dan, I'm losing you. Is that me or you?
Oh,
I think you got soft on me.
oh, really? Can't hear me? Can you hear me?
You're like the Clippers, man. You got a little soft on me.
No, no, no. Wait till tonight's game. You okay there? Can you hear me?
Nah, it's still a little low, the volume on my end.
Oh, really?
I saw your piece. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay.
Good thing I got good hearing, Dan.
Yeah. Hopefully the audience can hear me still. But what was I saying? Yeah, the QR code. That's where the world's going. I was just saying that in Japan, a lot of people are using that more often than it is here. So I think that's something that people are going to be using more often. But yeah, you hit it right on the head. Just people. Besides price, the only thing they really care about is just convenience and speed.
Right. And listen, we're not selling on price, but at some point you have to capture them on price, right? Like, you've got to get them in the door on a price move and then sell them on why you're better than what they have, whether that's coverage, experience, or ultimately, hopefully it's the premium, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I tell my team, like, let's get them talking because we're having a price conversation, but let's ultimately win them because we can do the job better than the person that they have.
Right.
And it doesn't always translate. I mean, let's just be honest. If somebody's paying $1,000 and I'm 2,000, the likelihood is no matter how great I am and how great my office is, they're going to stay where they're at. But if the number is close enough, people are going to move if they feel like their needs are better met somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell my staff sometimes, hey, it's not even selling if you're less. Like anybody could do that. A robot could do that.
Right.
We're able to convince people to go to us even when we're a little bit more, or sometimes we're a lot more than they still. Then that's really what selling is almost. Then that's really where some agents are better than others when producers are better when they're able to sell even when we are more. But what I want to know, Sandy, is that how much time and how much effort did it take for you to develop such a complex system like that? I mean, it's just,
The direct mail campaign?
yeah, with the QR codes. I mean, that just sounds like a very, complicated system of, all the data, all the information that goes into making a campaign like that.
Yeah, so I've been working on the QR for probably since May. I mean, whenever, they opened up restaurants here in Texas, it kind of dawned on me like, hey, this may be the new way to get, because, a lot of times the people don't want to have a conversation. I mean, that's just the reality. Like, we like to think that people want to talk to us, but a lot of times they don't. So if you can develop a robust system to where they can literally scan a code on a piece of paper and then fill out all the information from their mobile device, they can do that in a matter of, a minute versus having to call an agent and, spend 10 minutes on the phone giving the same information. So, I would say it's probably been, I mean, we'll go live with that next month, but it's probably been a good 3-month cycle so that we've been kind of working on it and building the back engine.
Do you need a lot of technical skills to be able to do something like
that? It helps to have a sharp mind. And then, for the shortfalls that I have from a technological standpoint, I just empower, hiring the people to fill the gaps in.
Gotcha.
So, I've got a good group of IT guys that I've known for years that literally I can just give them an idea and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And they go build it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that sounds like it's not easy to build out. Even like, those numbers where you give them the option to text, right?
What's that?
You give them the option to text as well?
Yes, yeah, text to quote. So yeah, I went to them, just a few months ago on that as well. So, just trying to think of all the ways in which we could make it easier for people that, potentially want to do business with us.
Right. Yeah, no, that's, it sounds like you're always tweaking things. You're always working on things. But marketing is definitely your specialty, and I feel like that is the difference maker of having the size of business that you have. And I think you touched on one thing. That you felt is very important is keeping your best staff.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to say this, and this is bad, but I've said it a bunch of times. So I mean, if anybody's heard me ever talk, they're just going to be used to it. So I think as agents, a lot of times we try to be cheap when it comes to our staff, right? So early in my career, I would get some people and I'd be like, man, they're terrible. But it reminded me that, when you pay peanuts, a lot of times you get monkeys. So, I was paying cheap and then, getting cheap. So now for my, kind of my staff that's been with me a while, the difference makers, the producers, I think you really have to figure out a way to keep them invested in the business, right? So if you've got some really top performing producers, nothing's going to keep them from going on to work for somebody else or to be recruited by somebody else unless you almost give them some skin in the game. So I think that's the key. Like, try to figure out a way to get them invested in the agency long term. A lot of agents just develop a short-term strategy where, I'm going to pay you a high percentage of the new business commission, but they neglect to build a back-end version that says, hey, as long as you hit this much production on a monthly basis, you're eligible for X amount percent of your, your renewals in your book. So, I think that's the key to keeping, your key staff is figure out a way to give them some sort of buy-in or investment on their particular book of business to where ultimately they're making so much money they can't afford to leave.
Wow. How high could that renewal percentage get?
I think it depends on a lot of things. Number one, like, are they getting a base or are they not getting a base? If they're not getting a base, I think you could make that back end renewal, pretty high. Like I've got an AP that works for me and, her compensation is, and she's a personal lines producer, but, she has to hit, $40,000 a month in gross written premium to be eligible for her renewal bonus. And her renewal bonus is just 20% of her renewals on a monthly basis, in addition to her new business compensation and her base salary.
Does that adjust quarterly or monthly or
Every month. It's either you hit
every
it or
month?
you don't. It's kind of
Gotcha.
like double down. Either you get it or you
Yeah,
don't.
I like that.
So I think that's key for agents because listen, if you've got great producers, unfortunately, they're going to get recruited by, other companies or sometimes even other farmers agents. So
Hmm.
you better make sure that you've got them well compensated to kind of keep the wolves at bay.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's a really good advice. Um, wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you feel like if they're getting the renewals, they may not be as hungry, or do you haven't seen that?
Okay, so that's a fear of mine, right? Like if you pay them on renewals, what does that do for their desire to go hunt, right? So what I say is remember, it's you're only
Yeah,
eligible for the renewals if
gotcha,
you hit the new business trigger.
gotcha.
So, I think you've got to have a trigger on the front side that
Yeah,
triggers the release on the renewal.
I like that.
Because then all of a sudden, guess what? If they're hitting that trigger on the front, they're getting the renewal bonus, which is the same reason you and I are still in business because of the residual base of this company,
Hmm.
and we're in a residual base income.
Yeah, but you
So
just
if,
can't.
if, if,
Yeah,
if they're with you 8, 10 years and, they're producing a large enough volume of business, their renewals are going to get really, really big. Yeah, I think we were talking about just, key employee compensation. And I get that question a lot. I mean, I think I told you, like, no matter where you go and who you talk to, that there's certain things they want to hear.
yeah. I think the
Key
beauty
employee
of yours is,
compensation,
yeah,
marketing, and then, hey, how good are you? Like, what are your numbers?
yeah.
So, I think that's a key for any agent is if you've got a great employee, keep them.
Do you? So is it different for every one of them? Kind of the
Yes. Yeah.
compensation? Yeah.
I don't believe in treating them equal. Like, I mean, that's just something, that I think is a lot of agents make the mistake of trying to, pay everyone equally. And I think that that's a mistake because not everybody contributes equally.
Yeah.
That'd be like me saying, hey, Dan, I'm only going to pay you, X because, and the other agent, is the same size. Like if you get paid based on your contribution,
Yeah. Just like sports, right?
that's it.
Yeah. When do you make that decision? Do you have like a formula? Hey, you've been here for this many years, or is it just a pure off intuition?
No, it's just intuition. I mean, most of my stuff is just intuition and gut.
Yeah.
But in the early parts of my career, I feel like I lost some good employees because I failed to compensate them on the backside, right?
Hmm.
So, I think that's where it gets important is, realize who the key contributors are. And it's not rocket science. I mean, it's look at their production. Or if you've got a great CSR and you're like, man, she just miles ahead of everybody else,
Hmm.
figure out how to keep her, right? So, or him. I don't want to
Hmm.
say her and then everybody jumps on his feet saying, hey, look at that guy. So, figure out how to keep your key employees is what I'm saying.
That's so important. What would you say? This is just roughly okay. So you told us 25% is for marketing or based on your agency's income. What would you say payroll is?
Probably 30.
30. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it varies, depending, because remember, a lot of my people are, paid on commission.
Hmm.
So, the more we sell, the more they make. And everybody likes that strategy.
Is it pretty aggressive as the base is very, very low, or do you have someone with no base?
My top commercial guy, he has zero base.
Okay.
So, his new business commission is higher, his renewals are higher, but, he's also, managing pretty much the entire portfolio of commercial with him and his team.
Right. So that justifies the renewal income because he's handling it
Correct.
for you.
Yeah. I make it, I create all the opportunities and then, they pretty much manage the portfolio.
And this is kind of and just around the number, what percentage of, and if you want to decline, that's fine, Sammy. But what percentage do you personally get out of your 25% marketing, 30% staff, and just so much other expenses as a business owner. But Well, what percentage do you feel of the full deal do you get? And then has that changed throughout the years, or how's that work for your agency in
Yeah, I
particular?
would say it's definitely changed, right? I mean, the numbers gotten a little bigger. Um,
Yeah,
so,
but what
um,
about the percentage?
no, I mean, the percentage has always kind of been that way. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just, it's the same percentage of a bigger number, right? So,
right.
um, I don't know. I've never really sat down and thought about what percentage I take home. I mean, the good thing is, I've tried to not spend more than I make, for the majority of my career. So, a lot of like our biggest overhead expense, our office, we own our office and it's paid for.
Oh
So,
wow,
there's no expense there. I mean, so really, the
wow.
majority of my expenses are marketing and staffing,
Uh-huh.
and then, short of just utilities and some ins and outs, the rest, I guess you could consider take home. So,
Wow.
it's,
How long have you been owning your building for?
we bought the building, and the problem was, and agents run into this all the time, is, we would start in one space and then every 3 years have to move because we outgrew it. I mean, it's a great problem to have, beautiful problem. But, an opportunity came out for us to purchase a building and finish it out. So we bought that building probably 7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And, it's in a great part of town, here where I live. And, it's big enough to where we can still expand. But it gets us out of the rent game. And, in my town, probably much where you're sitting, rent doesn't get any cheaper. It just gets more and more expensive.
Right.
So I just felt like it was an opportunity to acquire an asset and then kind of eliminate a liability on the balance sheet.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big part of my expense. So to not have
Yes.
that, I'm thinking like, man, that's yeah,
Your take
that's
home percentage would go up.
yeah, big time. Wow, that's almost hard for me to comprehend. Like no mortgage, no rent, of operating a business. Wow, that must have taken a lot of discipline because, I mean,
Well, I remember I told you, my wife said I'm always 2 years behind when I want to buy something. So, I guess I like to build up a substantial nest egg to be able to pull the trigger on things like that. The good
yeah.
thing about that asset is it's probably doubled in value. So, it's definitely been a great purchase for us.
And do you think you ever be in a situation where you may outgrow it or sell it?
I hope to be in that situation. That would be a great problem to have, is to have to go buy a bigger office. And then at that point, I mean, if I'm thinking ahead, right,
Uh-huh.
you simply turn around and create, rent the current office out and use that rent to pay for the new office.
Right.
So, it's that would probably be my action plan. When we outgrow it, not if we outgrow it.
I love that. Yeah, sometimes we look at problems, it's like, well, we want that problem, and then,
That's a great problem to have.
we'll figure it out at that point.
I mean, it's almost like
Sometimes,
the problem of, man, hey, I want my tax bill to go up because that means I'm making more money.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes it makes me laugh when people are like, "Oh, I don't want my taxes to be higher." It's like, well, what are you gonna do about that? You don't want to.
I met an agent one time that told me that, Dan. I swear, he said, I don't want to make any more money because I have to pay more tax. To which I said, well, then that means you have more money. So, give me a tax problem anytime versus an income problem.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear about tax problems when you guys live in Texas and I live in California.
That's right. That's right. I mean, half of your income goes to tax. So,
I don't want to hear from you guys.
but
I'm
that leads to another good conversation is, I think agents a lot of times make the mistake when times get tough, right? Like even when COVID hit, there was panic amongst, I bet, a lot of agents. And I always say the great agents and agents like yourself, when times get tough and you turn into an entrepreneur versus an accountant. There's a lot of agents who, when COVID hit, they got scared and they turned off some things that were working, or maybe let go of a staff person because of the unknown.
Mhm.
Where great agents become entrepreneurs and they say, listen, in a tough time, I realize there's going to be these other agents that are going to make mistakes. I'm going to capitalize on their mistakes. I'm going to double my marketing. I'm going to hire that extra producer. So, I've always advocated, try to be an entrepreneur, never be an accountant when it comes to running your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Any situation is an opportunity,
That's
and
right.
that's what entrepreneurs
Look at it,
do.
right?
Yeah. And sometimes being an accountant, it does make you crunch the numbers too much and think too analytically. And I don't know, for some reason, I always thought you were like the math guy.
Yeah. No, I am. Trust me. I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell you if 1 + 1 = 2. But I don't get so invested in my campaign to be like, well, we're marketing to 25 zip codes. Let me figure out, which one works the best. I think
Yeah.
it's dollar spending, right? If we spend 10,000 and make 7,500, I'm going to call that success.
Hmm.
I could probably dive into the weeds a little deeper and increase the ROI, but at the same time, the time it takes me to do that, I may miss the opportunity to create a new line of revenue.
Hmm. And then you also dabble into helping other agents, right? Or more than dabble when it comes to helping them with their campaigns.
Yeah, so I've got a group of agents that I've probably been helping for the last 12 years. So, I mean, it's been an ongoing process, and the beautiful thing is it's to me, it's a system that has been, whether you're in a recession, no matter what the market has been, the direct mail response has always been consistent because it's not tied to a realtor or new home sales or anything like that. It's simply tied to, can I be better than what you're paying?
Hmm.
So I've had direct marketing through a lot of really rough markets and economic markets, and it's always come out ahead. Just simply because it's am I better than what you have? Whether it's better representation or a better price, or maybe it's both.
Hmm. So you would say that we have a better rating when it comes to homeowners insurance in Texas in general. We're very competitive there. Like, what if another agent in a
No,
different?
I mean, I wouldn't say we're very competitive. That would kind of lend people to believe that, we're just, knocking down everything that we get in front of us. I would probably say, our close ratio, and it varies agent to agent, is probably, 15 to 20% close ratio. So, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6. So, I mean, it definitely takes a lot of opportunity to be successful.
Hmm.
But that's why I think any sort of marketing is just a numbers game, right? So, you got to realize if I want to write, one person, it may take 5 or 6 quotes to get it done.
Hmm.
But the great thing about Texas is, the rates are good. So,
Hmm.
the rates in Dallas, Fort Worth, when you get one of those people, it's a good rate. It's not like, a $300 homeowner's policy
Right.
or a $500 auto policy. I mean, you can generate some premium. It takes it takes having a multitude of opportunities to make it happen.
And then, how much of a radius do you go for an agent? Like that
In
matters, right?
Texas.
Or like, let's say you're in a certain part of Texas.
Uh-huh.
Would you be sending out mailers to the whole state, or would you be mailing it out to like a, let's say like a
I mean, I
radius
would probably say 75% of our marketing goes within a 30-mile radius of
30
our
miles?
office.
Okay.
But I do believe that you've got to track the numbers. So if you know that the close ratio, and I'm just going to throw this out as a hypothetical, if you know that the close ratio, 200 miles away is, double the close ratio in your town, I think you'd be fooled not to, try to do some business there.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
I mean, I think you've got to be able to expand beyond your area because, there's a lot of agents that I talk to that are in a really small market. They're in a rural market.
Hmm.
There may not be 1,000 people a month that they can market to. So the only opportunity they're going to have is to create a marketing campaign, that's maybe further out than where their office is.
Do you think the prospects care, or what are you seeing there?
I
Like,
think so. I mean, I think you're going to run into a few that say, "Man, I want a local agent." But the same ones that tell you they want a local agent are probably doing business with Geico or something. So, I think at the end of the day, most people want to save money. They want to feel like they've got great representation. I mean, I think I could reciprocate the question back to you and you would say, hey, listen, I'm going to go wherever, I get the most hits on my social media campaign. I think you can't limit yourself to a small area when your license gives you the ability to do business all over your state.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I just wanted to confirm that I'm thinking like you because you've done it for such a long time. Yeah, and you gave me some great ideas when it comes to my marketing campaign too. It's funny how although it's different, direct mail on social media, that your experience in it has really helped me out a lot, which I really appreciate. What are some ways? What are the ways you help out the agents? Do they just literally just want to get started with you? They just give you a budget and you tell them, hey, this is how many mailers you get, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, I think what's been really key for me is, I didn't start off, all these years ago. I think I've been mailing direct mail now for maybe 15 years, right? It didn't start off that way in the beginning. And I didn't start off mailing for other agents. It's literally just kind of been word of mouth. Like, some people refer to it as the McKamie letter. I mean, it's kind of got its own little name, but, I mean, I think what's been successful for me is just not trying to run it like it's a business, but just trying to run it like it's just something that helps fellow agents. Where a lot of agents get in trouble is, they try to, they forget that first and foremost, they're an insurance guy.
Right.
Secondly, they're a mentor, a marketing guy, or they have something else that's successful. So I've just tried to share it, but not in a way to where it diminishes other agents' results. So, that's been key for me is just, I want agents to be successful. I don't want necessarily, my focus isn't on, this direct mail business to be successful. So I've tried to almost limit it in a way that just allows everybody that is on the program to have success versus just having a lot of people on the program.
Right. Yeah, that's how most businesses work. When you look out for the best interest of your clients, that's what keeps it going.
I saw that on your post the other day.
Yeah, thanks for paying it. Thanks for reading. Yeah. So how do you do that? Do you limit like territories or?
Yeah, I keep it exclusive. So,
Mm.
if you come to me and say, hey, the only zip code I know is 90210 in California. So you have to excuse my ignorance. But
No, that's all right. That's all right.
if you said, hey, I want to market to that, I might say, okay, Dan, it's wide open.
Uh-huh.
Or I might say, man, hey, I've got somebody else who's already doing it. I'm happy to kind of put you on a wait list, or maybe we can look at a different area. So, I think that's the key for me is just trying to keep it exclusive. Trying to put the agents first before anything else, because, if they're successful and they're right in business, in reality, the company's successful,
Right.
as an overall. So, it's been good in that capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're helping out other agents, yeah, I definitely relate to that. It's you're doing good. It just makes you feel good at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's oftentimes it's crazy. Like the more I get into the business and the longer I've been around, when an agent emails me and says, man, hey, I sold a deal today, or, man, I've had my best month ever. I mean, you can probably attest to that through your work with other agents. Is there's no better feeling than watching somebody else be successful and feel like you played a small part in that. That to me is probably one of the most gratifying feelings as I get more seasoned in the business, is just seeing other agents who, have success.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a whole nother level. When you make yourself successful, it's great, but then the next level is like trying to help other people out. So it's a whole nother level of, yeah, gratification or sense of accomplishment when you've done that. And I think you've done that for a lot of people at our company. When you look at the leaderboard, there's a lot of people you've helped. So yeah, some of the yeah, when you say you're not a pioneer, I'm not sure about that.
Well, listen, I might have been the pioneer in the direct mail game, but along the way, I might have pirated a few ideas.
Is that um, just the fear of not having the fear of spending the money, That's number one, or what I get from you. You know, employee retention, that was a great one too. Um, Anything else we kind of left off on, or what are some things you could get other agents excited about as far as, you know, where you put yourself in, or anything else, any advices, or what are some things that you're just proud of, would you say, in your career?
Man, I mean, I'm proud of my team, right? Like, I mean, I've had the same team for a very long time. And it's funny how like when the agency wins an award, it's no longer about just me. It's about the agency. So, you know, it's fun to have a great team that you can share success with, but it's also even better when they feel like they're part of that success, right? It doesn't feel like it's me and them. It's us. I mean, I can't say it enough. You got to market. Like, if you're not spending your time thinking about marketing, if you're not talking to people that are successful in what we do and seeking them out to try to just grab like just an idea or a nugget, I mean, you know, and you're spending your time working on a renewal, you're wasting your opportunity. You know, we're not always going to be in a season to where things are great, but if you can prepare when times are great, you're going to always sustain when times get tough. You know, in our state, you know, we're not immune to rate increase. You kind of laughed at it, but I mean, I feel like I've been in a rate increase for the last 7 years. But at the end of the day, you know, I don't focus on the people I'm losing. I focus on the people how many more I need to go gain. So, you know, you got to just keep your perspective also in the right place. And I'm huge on perspective. So, you know, a lot of agents focus on their losses as opposed to focusing on, well, how do I create bigger wins?
Hmm.
So I think that's another huge deal. But yeah, I mean, I always tell my APs, you know, hey, everybody wants to eat, but not everybody's willing to hunt. So, you know, like, you know, what's going to separate you from everybody else is, you know, how successful of a hunter are you? Because, you know, if you can hunt really effectively and you figure out ways to grow your agency by marketing, then it's not a matter of, you know, how big the buffet is. It's just, you know, how much do you want to throw at it to make the table larger?
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. Have you have you got into the life in FFS, or you just love the PNC? What are your thoughts on that?
Just a grinder, Dan. Like,
Yeah,
I
same here.
mean, I love to get down and dirty and just focus on auto, home, commercial. And even on our commercial, I mean, I'm not focused on writing everything. I have a very intense focus on, we really just write two things and we write them very well. So, you know, that's kind of our focus, is just being, you know, we don't want to be the jack of all trades. We want to be surgeons when it comes to commercial. So, you
Gotcha.
know, I think that's also important. Like, a lot of people are overwhelmed with commercial because if you just go into it saying, I want to be a commercial agent, you know, that's a lot to take on. So,
Yeah.
you know, I would encourage somebody, find something you're passionate about and that you're good at, and that, you know, also, you know, is a favorable premium. I
Hmm.
mean, you don't want to go spend 8 hours and make $50, you know, so, you know, find something that you're good at, you're passionate about, and that, you know, the time invested, you know, is equal to the return, and just dive in. And
What
that's what
what
we've done.
what are your lines for that?
So commercial trucking and
Trucking.
large habitational, you know, apartments,
Okay.
office buildings, and things of that sort. So, you know, we're aggressively targeting those every month in the same capacity via direct mail. So, you know, if there's data out there that can tell me, you know, when somebody's renewing, or, you know, what the size of their fleet is, you better believe we're going to create some sort of a marketing piece to go get it.
And then you could get who owns these buildings too, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Man,
So
you got my mind going. The potential
good.
there.
That's what it's about, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's about, you know, I mean, listen, you said earlier that I've helped you. I mean, you've helped me as well. So, I mean, you know, iron sharpens iron. So, you know, if I'm helping you and you're helping me, man, that's just a win. And
Yeah,
then through
no.
this platform, if we're helping other agents, then, you know, the win gets even larger, because, you know, there was a lot of agents that helped me when I knew nothing.
Hmm.
And, you know, I think that's our duty, is, agents that are tenured and have been successful is to really just open up and just try to help other people to get to that level.
Yeah, let's pay it forward. So yeah, moving into the future, what keeps you hungry, Sammy? You don't have to do, nickel and dining the personal lines business, and still building it up slowly. It just takes time to build up a business like this. But, how old are you?
43.
43? Okay. Yeah, well, what is it that keeps you hungry? Like, do you need to work as hard, or, what do you think?
My wife asked me that question just the other day.
Okay.
What keeps you motivated? And I said, the fear of not being successful.
But what if you could say that you already are?
Well, in my mind, I feel like there's another level. There's another hill to climb. And I think that's what drives me is, no matter how good things appear, in my mind, there's another level to climb. I watched a great documentary the other day on baseball pitcher Roy Halladay. Pitched a perfect game and then went home and watched the tape to figure out where he could have done better. Now, there's not a whole lot of perfect games ever thrown in baseball, and most people would say that was perfection. But in his mind, there were still things that he could improve on.
Wow.
So I think as an agent, and at least for me, that's where my mind's at. Like, things are good, and we've had some success, but there's still things we can improve on and heights that we can reach that, if I just stay invested on a daily basis on working on the business, then we can get there. The problem is I haven't decided where that is yet. So I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The curiosity of what is potential, what our potential is what kind of keeps me going too. Wow.
And,
Yeah.
honestly, it's other agents. I mean, there's motivation in being around successful agents. If you're running with some guys that are below you, I would say there's no motivation, because you're already considered the best of that group. I would say, for me, I surround myself with guys like you that are successful and that are ahead of me in a lot of ways, just because that's what motivates you to keep going. You wake up saying, man, hey, I'm number 3 on the leaderboard. What I need to get up there and get to number 1. I know Dan's working, so I need to get to the office.
No, that's one thing that I've picked up early on from getting to know you, that the competitiveness level.
Oh yeah, I'm big time competitive. I might even be a sore loser, Dan. I don't know.
I was like that when I was a kid, and I see that in my kids too.
I think that's a great attribute. Like I don't know if it's competitive, it's passion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm passionate about winning.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe that makes me a sore loser. I don't know. I just want to win, Dan.
No, yeah, no, I totally relate to you in that way. It's just like sometimes it's not even about the money, it's just about like if I'm beating somebody or not.
It's that joy of, this year you got your first PC. I mean, it wasn't about, the policies, it was about the recognition.
Right.
And I think for a lot of agents, that's where it's at. It's, you want to be recognized as, man, that guy's at the top of his game. And then the driving force is once you get that recognition, you got to keep doing it. Otherwise, right, you're just like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, it's like a drug. You want.
It is a drug.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the double down. It's a drug.
Yeah.
You hit that baby once, you better not. You don't want to miss it next month.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't have it 2 months before that.
Yeah, and I wish I would have talked to you before, because 1 month we did lose it, because of employees and COVID and all that. But it was like, man, I should have talked to you before, because I should have just spent more on marketing. And I did bump it up a little bit, but there's no reason I should have missed it if I was smart enough to adjust earlier and spend more. So, but yeah, now and I got it back. So, but yeah, it is something where once you reach a certain level, some of the reason we work so hard is the fear of going backwards. It's just not acceptable to us.
Or the fear of not being on top. I mean, that's the driver. I mean, at least it is for me. I mean, and literally I had that conversation with my wife a couple of weeks ago, as she was asking me, hey, could you spend, you need to kind of take a break from the agency. All these other dads have taken breaks. And for me, it was like, this is the opportunity right now. And, we're living that opportunity because, like I told you, our agency premium is up 25%. I mean, that's not, that's outside of the bubble, as you would like to say, if we're talking like comparing it to the NBA, like
Mhm.
it's technically outside of the bubble of what reality is for most folks. Like to say that your business is up 25% is a great win in a time where others are going backwards.
Yeah. No, yeah. This is such an opportunity for us. It's almost like the whole world like resetted itself. And it's like, this is kind of where like we have to separate ourselves, because it's like a reset and everyone's starting from like the same level of, everything just changing. And if you could get off to a good start right now, because you're probably right, when things are better, which we hope it will be, I don't want to like act like this is like a gift because terrible things have happened, but um, if you go backwards or if we're not, people aren't going to be shopping like this, and the double down's going to go away, so it's like if we're
Go
not,
back to normal, right?
it's
They're
going to
going to
go
go
back
back
to
to normal to
right,
their jobs and not paying attention to their insurance. So, I mean, you have to, put hay in the barn right now.
right,
And, there should be no guilt about being successful in this market because you created that gift.
hmm
If agents are successful right now, there should be no guilt in being successful. It's because, the agents invested in their agency or they spent more time in there to be successful. So I don't see it as, as a guilty sort of thing because, you chose to dive in and hunker down and create that opportunity.
yeah. Yeah, it's like the same thing as, when things don't go right, you got to take accountability. But when things do go right, yeah, sometimes I battle with that where I feel a little guilty, especially compared to other business owners. But we put ourselves in that situation. So we should, not only take accountability, but take credit when it's due too.
That's
But yeah, I'm
right.
telling my staff right now, it's like the playoffs. This is where really where things make a difference. This is the most important time maybe in our careers. So um, yeah, I'm really excited. So you don't have any like numbers that you have as far as like you could envision yourself in 5, 10 years, or you just go with the flow and just making sure you're getting bigger every month or every year.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my mind, I mean, my goal, I mean, if somebody said, what's your goal? I want to be the best. And whatever the best looks like, is that the largest agency as it relates to premium? That's where I'm headed. Like, that's what motivates me is, it's great being at the top. I'm fearful of losing that ranking. But ultimately, when the dust settles on my career, I want people to say, man, that guy was the best. Like, he not only gave back to other agents, but he was successful as himself. And, whether that's a $20 million agency, a $30 million agency, who knows what it looks like years down the road. The good thing is we're both still young, Dan. So we got a little bit of time to continue to write the chapters of this book.
Yes, sir.
So I do know if we continue to just put marketing first and value our employees, and because our employees are ultimately the ones most time taking care of the client. So if
Mhm.
you're putting marketing first, valuing your employees, things are going to go good for you.
Yeah,
It's just it all starts with marketing. I can't reiterate that enough. Like all the best agents and the best staff mean nothing if you don't have marketing.
yeah. Sometimes it's that simple, huh? It's just marketing and staff, motivating your staff, taking care of them, and making sure they're hungry and making sure we're feeding them.
Yeah,
Um,
and something else to think about is location really important? Like, look at the world we're living in right now. Most people are at home, right? Even, a lot of farmers' employees are at home. So how important is a location? Do you need an office? Did everybody work virtual? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, luckily we have an office. I don't plan on selling it, but at the end of the day, it's like it's a crazy, crazy question to ask yourself is, do I need to be in an area of town where the rent's double, or can I get the same results somewhere else?
yeah,
You know,
and a couple years ago, it was the big thing was for a company the retail thing. Like I gotta have the signs out. So it's like when I first there's so much emphasis, I was like thinking like, ooh, like I'm not sure if people want to go into offices, to buy insurance. And now it's even like even more of that. So yeah, I think one of the important things is just each of our agents adaptability.
Yeah, adaptability is key. I mean, as an agent, you almost have to be a chameleon. You have to be able to wake up every single year and adapt to something new. Whether it's, a change in the management system, a new product that's coming out. If you can't adapt to change in our business, you will fail.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're about to take on Guidewire. So, I mean, if we can't adapt to that, we will fail.
Yeah, that one you have no choice, but having the right attitude when it comes to adapting is important too.
And it's preparedness. Like, I mean, we've got to, as an agency, prepare ourselves for that change. We can't just wake up on the launch day and be like, all right, let's see what this thing looks like. I mean, so I think, preparedness is a big deal as well. Like, seeing the change before the change occurs and being ready for it. There's nothing worse than having to react to something that's already happened. Try to be a visionary in the regard where the market well enough to where you can see the change happening before the change occurs.
Yep. Yeah, and then almost just expecting it. It makes me laugh when some of the newer agents like, we had a rate increase. I'm like, well, yeah, like, if you expected that change is going to happen, when it comes, you're just like, you're able to process the change and rationalize it so much easier when you're almost expecting it. Like something's going to happen. Nothing's always going to be the change. So almost just like preparing yourself mentally also is important too, because as a company, it makes sense that we have to make adjustments to be, to put us in a better situation. So welcoming change and having a good attitude about change is important too. When do you think you want to be the best? Is that from day one, or when did that happen? You've always been like
That's
that?
when I started being successful, man. Like, I didn't know, I had no idea. And it's probably because I didn't really know my own potential. Like, it took some time for me to realize, like, man, hey, there's an opportunity out here that I'm not taking advantage of. And then once I started having success and realized, like, hey, I'm pretty good at this thing called insurance. From that point on, my desire to stay on top is persisted.
What year was
But
that?
it was probably like my fifth or sixth year.
Okay.
It just, I didn't really know. I mean, I was comfortable. I was making a decent living. And then all of a sudden I realized, like, wait a minute, like, I'm missing an opportunity here. And then I just dove headfirst into it and just started really focusing on marketing and how to expand the agency, just purely through the marketing. I mean, I think similar to kind of your history. Like, I mean, you didn't walk in day one and you were just a success. I mean, it just, you kind of got to fall down and get up and fall down and get up and then realize, okay, hey, you know, here's where I'm going to be really good, and
Hmm.
just be really good at that one or two or three things. It doesn't take a whole lot of things to become great. It just, if you've got something and it works, be really great at that.
Yeah.
Whether it's social media, direct mail, internet leads, networking. Like, if you're good at that, then go be great at it. Don't just be good at it.
Yeah. Be the best at it.
That's
So,
it.
so you're okay with agents contacting you and to learn a little bit more about the direct mail
Oh
system,
yeah,
you
no,
guys?
I mean, whether I can put them on the track to, do it themselves, or, help them get started, yeah. I mean, agents contact me quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
especially now that Double Down's happening, there's a real desire, like there's never been, to market. So yeah, if I can help an agent, whether it's in my state or another state, they're welcome to call, and we'll try to put them in the right direction.
All right. Awesome. I might be the first one in line.
Hey, you know where to get me.
Locking the zip codes for mine.
That's
All
right.
right, Sammy. Well, hey, thanks so much for spending the time. I really
Hey, I
appreciate
enjoyed it, brother.
yeah, no, I really appreciate the value, not just from this podcast, but the previous, conversation we have. You have a big part of me being able to help out more agents too. You just have a mind and just, a sharp, marketing experience, and someone like, the headlines to use. Just a lot of things that short amount of time you share with me has really helped me out. So yeah, I'm excited um, to keep in touch and keep our relationship going. And
Awesome. You too, brother.
now that I found out you're a Mavs fan, I'm really looking forward to tonight's game. And so I feel
Hey,
like,
there might be a few texts exchanged throughout the evening. Now, listen, we're not going to make any excuses because at least one of our players is injured and just can't hit the bucket. Porzingis is just injured. Paul George is just can't hit a bucket. So I'm hoping that he stays injured on his pride.
yeah, I was about to say something really messed up. Like, I hope I wish he was injured, but that'd be a really bad thing to say. As you know, it's kind
Listen,
of,
he is injured. His pride is injured
yeah,
because
but
he's struggling so bad.
he's gonna turn it around. I mean, he has his own shoe. He's been on cover of like video games. I mean, he's a bona fide superstar. He can't last more than 3 games. So,
He's going to turn it around next year, though, Dan. Like you're missing this. Like next year, he's going to turn it around, not this year.
yeah, but this has to be the series because I could see the Clippers. You know, this is a legitimate chance, but you guys are just so set up for the future. You're gonna have a lot of opportunity the Mavs are gonna be better in the long run. So just give us this year, and hopefully I could enjoy 1 year of.
We got to take advantage of when we can, Dan. Like we
All
never
right,
know when we're. It's like the Cowboys. You never know when you're going to be back in the playoffs.
that's true. You gotta take advantage when you can, and that's what we're trying to do too. So, all right, Sammy. Hey, thanks so
Well,
much.
thanks for having me, man. I enjoy it. I enjoy this conversation and all the ones that preceded it. So yeah, let's stay in touch and keep motivating each other.
Yes, sir. Same here. Thank you so much. And yeah, for any of the audience watching, that's really appreciative that you're reaching out to let them know what you can do for them. So I'll put your, what's the best way to contact you, you say? Social media?
Email. Just
Email,
have them
okay.
email me.
Okay, cool. You don't
Yeah,
mind if I
and then you
put
can have
that
them
at,
send them right to my farmer's email. That way
okay,
I know they're farmers guys
right.
and girls.
Gotcha. All right, I'll put the link down below. So yeah, thanks again, Samuel. I'll see you then. I'll see you till next time.